Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going over this little pistol right here. It's a Smith & Wesson SD9 VE. I believe VE stands for Value Enhanced. So what they're getting at there is they claim, at least in their marketing literature, that you get a lot of pistol for the money. So this one here comes to market generally under $350 in a lot of places right up front. So that's going to draw a lot of people in. Honestly, it drew me in. I purchased this pistol probably 18 months to a year ago. We've had it in for a while. You guys have seen it in other ammo tests and things like that. But finally, we're getting around to the review of it. What we're going to do next is take a closer look at it, look at some of the details of it, some of the features of it, some of the things that aren't featured on it that are featured on other Smith & Wesson pistols, and then at the end we'll tell you what we think of it overall. I suppose we'll start out here on the bottom of the frame. Up front we have good checkering, same here on the rear, no complaints there. It's a little bit more aggressive than it is on the sides, and that's a very good thing in my opinion. What that does is the front especially gives you the ability to grab tight on the pistol if your hands are sweaty or anything like that under recoil as it's moving around, and the softer texturing here on the sides is good because it gives you some texturing, but it's not going to rub against your skin and irritate you if you're carrying inside the waistband. So really on the checkering, give it high marks there, no doubt about it. It works well. On the right side of the pistol, you'll see it's pretty plain, nothing there to snag on. However, one thing you note, particularly if you're a left-handed shooter, is that the slide lock and slide stop is left side only. So made for the righties. I know a lot of you lefties are so used to it now, it's totally not an issue, but just something to point out there. The mag release works positively, drops mags free. The magazines are 16 rounds with one in the chamber, giving you a total capacity of 17 rounds. They appear to be of good quality. No issues there at all with the magazines. Moving up front, we have these little memory pads here for when you take your finger out of the trigger guard where you can rest it. Not sure if that's really a necessity, but some folks like it, and it certainly doesn't hurt anything. We have 1913 style rails up front, so any of your accessories that work on Picatinny or 1913 style rails will work just fine on there. It's certainly a good thing. No proprietary rails or anything like that on there. On the front of the slide, we have these very large serrations, same on the back. Now, one thing about these big old serrations like that is that they're very easy to machine. There's not a lot of machining time in them. They also lighten the slide up here to take a little bit of the weight out of there, which we'll weigh it here in just a second. Now, they don't look as good, in my opinion, as tighter serrations or like the fish scales that you're going to see on the M&P, but they work well. They're very easy to grab onto, even with two fingers, or if you come in overhand, or if you want to do press checks and stuff like that up front. They do work well. No issues there at all. They just perhaps aren't as aesthetically pleasing as some of the others. It comes with pretty decent sights. They're 3-dot configuration. They are plain white, so no night sights or anything like that, but they're fairly usable. They have a nice ledge up front if you want to do one-hand manipulations or anything like that, and they get you on target pretty efficiently. The unloaded weight on the pistol comes in at 1 pound 4 ounces or 20 ounces. Safety-minded features of the pistol are going to be that it has a loaded chamber indicator. However, that's not going to work at all in low light. But if you look in there when it's loaded, you will see the round and be able to see it at least when you can actually have the light to do so. On the right side of the pistol, you see it's capable of firing with the magazine removed. I really do prefer that. There is no mag safety, so that's a good thing in my opinion. I know some folks out there will differ with it. It does have a trigger safety as well as a striker safety, which we'll show you here in a second. Trigger safety works very similar to the M&P pistols, whereas if you push down on this bottom piece right here, there's that little piece right there that will go in and allow the trigger to go to the back. Now, if you don't do that, so if the pistol was dropped or something like that, you can't bring the trigger to the rear, it will not fire. So that's how it works. Now that we have the trigger pressed, I suppose we'll go into disassembly. First thing you do is you want to clear it like we already did. Press the trigger to the rear. At this point, it's identical to how a Glock would take down. You have these two little tabs. You're going to pull back a little bit, pull down on the tabs, and release it. Your slide will come off. Now I'm going to say it's somewhat familiar to and similar to Glocks. I don't mean that as a knock on the pistol. I mean that as a compliment. Glocks are good guns. Why not copy it? You'll see here's our striker safety that we alluded to earlier. This has to be depressed for the actual striker to go forward, and that occurs by when you pull the trigger. This piece right here of your trigger bar pushes that up and out of the way, allowing the pistol to be fired. Now you can see there, not too much going on. They did some lightning cuts as well inside the slide, which we certainly like. But other than that, not a whole lot to talk about there. The barrel itself is a 4-inch barrel, so very similar to what you're going to see on the Glock 19. You'll see it does have a nice target crown on the front, and the recoil spring is polymer, and it is a captive spring. Looking inside the trigger mechanism, it's sort of a hybrid between the M&P. It's got a little M&P influence back here, up here, which isn't the trigger mechanism, but is the takedown mechanism. It's, again, almost identical to what you're going to see on a Glock. Reassembling the pistol is the reverse of taking it apart. So we're going to put our barrel in. I'm going to put our recoil spring in, small side forward, put it down so it locks into place there on the barrel, and line up the rails here with the rails here on the inside of the slide, I should say. Pull back, release, and we're in business. The gun is reassembled. Function check. Make sure that trigger resets, and we're ready to go. Speaking of that trigger, that's one of the big improvements of this gun, in my opinion, over the Sigma models that I've reviewed before. Those guns had really heavy triggers. They're very long, stagey, not smooth at all. This one is smooth. It's still a little bit on the heavy side. On my trigger gauge, this one breaks just over 8 pounds. So it's not light by any means, but it's not terrible like those Sigmas. The Sigma 40 I have, I believe, breaks right around 11 pounds. So it's significantly heavier. We'll show you what it actually looks like when you actually pull the trigger. It's got a little bit of play right here. Once you start to take up the slack and hit the wall, it has some movement, but it's very crisp break. There's no complaints about the break. The complaint I do have about the trigger is the reset. It's very long. So it almost goes all the way out to reset. And you got to take it back up to break, and then we have that long reset again. So definitely an improvement. I wouldn't say it's great, but it's not terrible either. The biggest thing I look for in a gun, any kind of gun, pistol, rifle, whatever, is going to be reliability. This gun here has been 100% reliable with any brass cased ammo, to include my ammo sponsor, Minuteman Munitions, which has been probably the majority of it. Got about 400 rounds of that stuff through this gun, so a good bit of it. We've also put some Hornady XTP 124 grain and some Spear Gold Dot 147 grain through it. However, people always ask me whenever I do a review, how does X gun work with steel cased ammo? So I always put some through. I keep some on hand, and we put 2 magazines of Silver Bear and 1 magazine of Wolf through it, both 115 grain varieties. Of those 3 magazines, it had 2 malfunctions, both with Silver Bear. Both were failure to extract, for what it's worth. That ammo runs fine in other guns, so for what it's worth, again, it doesn't seem to like that ammo. Now, I'm not sure if that's all steel cased ammo or what, but just wanted to report that to you guys in terms of reliability, in terms of what you can expect. Otherwise, it's functioned flawlessly. Accuracy's been good. I think the pistol has excellent ergonomics. That's certainly a big plus for it, for sure. It's a relatively soft shooting gun. It's got a relatively low bore access. I do like the serrations, like we talked about. The sights are decent, especially for the price category of the gun. The trigger, not that great, like we talked about, but an improvement. And all in all, a decent all-around gun. I mean, is it, you know, an M&P? Is it a Glock? No, it's not. Those are definitely more refined guns, have better triggers and maybe a better feature set. But everyone doesn't have the money for that. And not everyone's going to put tons of rounds through their pistols, and they just don't want that in a pistol, and that's fine. I mean, this one's a good gun that could do a lot of things well. You can see by the size, you could carry it a little bit on the large side for some folks, but it could work in that role. It also has the accessory rail, so you could use it maybe in a home defense role. And all in all, it's definitely an improvement on the Sigma. There's no getting around that without question. If you guys have any other questions about this gun, anything else we talk about here in the review or didn't talk about, by all means, you can post below in the comment section. You can also post over at my Facebook page as always. But thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for subscribing, and I hope to see you in the next video.